In this episode, you'll learn how artificial intelligence is reshaping the world of human resources. From hiring and onboarding, to performance management, to employee engagement, AI is becoming a core part of the HR toolkit. But what's really useful versus just noise? We also discuss real-world use cases and ethical considerations. Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Andrea Adams. She's the owner of the HR consultancy HR Hub and the YouTube channel of the same name. Because today we're going to be talking about AI in HR as part of our AI in an Industry series.
Thanks, Carl and Andrea. Great to have you here. AI is transforming HR by automating routine tasks, enhancing decision-making, and improving employee experiences. And understanding its practical applications and limitations is crucial for businesses aiming to stay competitive and foster a positive workplace culture. So we're excited to have, Andrea, you here with your expertise to share with us today.
So, Andrea, I have a list of points here that I was thinking of covering, but from your experience over the past couple of years, especially with AI really ramping up in various industries, what are like the top three places where you're seeing AI make a big impact in HR?
HR, typically, we're known for being late adopters. So frankly, and in my consultancy, I primarily consult to small and medium businesses. So their HR departments aren't actually doing much, and I think they could be doing so much more. So when I think about the primary areas that HR could be should be impacted, I should say, by AI is where we're doing really tedious work. The number one area that always comes up every single time is recruitment. There is a lot of tedious work in recruitment, but it's work that really matters. And, so that's a real prime opportunity for AI. And I know that there are a lot of companies who have already stepped into that space. But the question for me, and I know that big companies are going to be using it, but the question for me is, how are those smaller companies that could be taking advantage of it? Like, medium-sized, those 500-person companies, what are they doing? And I think too often it's not enough.
Well, can you dive more into recruitment? Like when you say those tedious tasks in recruitment, what are you referring to?
Screening resumes. Oh man, it is like, recently I was involved in recruiting for a position, and in the space of a week and a half, we got 400 resumes, and you have to look at them all, and you want to do a good job of looking at them all. But we as humans don't really have enough time to look at them. So we're using poor proxies to go through those resumes. Like say, one I'll use is educational background. For example, I've got 400 resumes. I need some way of whittling those down to a manageable pile so I know which ones to look at. And so anyone without the proper educational background, I'll set those on the C pile. Like, these are not ones I'm going to consider, when in fact, those might have been great candidates. I just don't have the time to dig into them that much. Resume screening is a perfect example of where AI could have such an impact. And I know, some of my clients are saying, hey, can I use AI to screen resumes? And they want to use their ChatGPT account to screen resumes. And the flat answer to that question is no, you can't, because you need privacy. You cannot release that information to the universe. That's people's confidential information. So unless you have your own applicant tracking system, you've paid for something, or some other very confidential AI, you can't dump that stuff, people's resumes, into AI and let it screen away. You have to have purchased a solution of some kind.
Andrea, I was going to say, because when I ran my business, I used to go through, if I didn't like the font somebody was using on their resume, I'd put it to the side.
Totally.
You just screen it, and you're probably losing a lot of good candidates. Because I also find that the people seem to get a little lazy now because they just seem to blanket out their resumes. But I guess my question is, have you seen any real good resume screening tools, AI resume screening tools out there that you would consider using? Because I know Carl and I talk about this all the time. There's lots of applications, but a lot of it's hype. And then when you start using them, you find that they're not just quite there. But have you found anything so far?
I've heard of some. I don't want to say which ones because I haven't explored them. Some where it's almost in-house. So you bring the data in-house. You're not sending it necessarily like to an external AI, like the way you do with ChatGPT. Those have some promise, but I agree with you. They say, oh, we're AI and, this is an AI enabled system. And then you're like, oh, wah, wah, that's not, it's AI barely. And it isn't, and they're not actually helping you screen resumes. Maybe they're helping you write an email. It's kind of like what's Microsoft's system called? I always forget.
Copilot.
Copilot. It's like Copilot. Like it sort of helps you do the task a little better, but it doesn't help you think better. It doesn't really speed things up. So yeah, there's some like that. I know there are some out there though that really are doing a good job in this area. I just couldn't name them. I mean, I've got some names at the top of my head, but by no means is that like a broad scan.
But with that, do you believe there is potential in the near future where AI could do that screening, or do you think you're going to miss, at least take it from 400 to 75?
Oh yeah, 1,000, like 100%. Those solutions are out there. I know they're out there, and it's like they're popping up like crazy popcorn, the solutions, like there's just so many of them, and it's like, how do you pick? And I'm finding that, and so there's something about what you guys do that I really like, but that there is one AI that provides more than one solution, so we don't have to get an AI for recruitment and an AI for the employee experience and an AI for the handbook, that there is, that there's some integration, in HR. We'd certainly be interested in that. I know to some degree the HRISs are stepping into that space.
Andrea, I wanted to ask you more about, if you look on any type of job board, right? You look on Indeed, you look on LinkedIn, majority of them pretty much still require, submit a CV, a resume, a cover letter. But my thinking is, okay, you're going to have some sort of applicant tracking system that is now reviewing an AI generated resume, AI generated cover letter. A lot of people, just with how the job market is right now, having to apply to thousands of jobs, hundreds, sometimes thousands, even more, just creating resumes in bulk, creating cover letters in bulk, and then an applicant tracking system or whatever AI tool some new companies have to review that. In your opinion, do you think the way people apply to jobs is going to change? Because to me, that's unsustainable. It's not making any sense in this environment that we're in right now.
People continually it feels like decades now, have predicted the demise of the resume and the cover letters, and it's still with us. It's painful. We just haven't come up with a better way. Yeah, and it is a problem. It sure is a problem. Like the number of resumes that come in that are they're almost fictional. It's not like AI is putting the icing on the cake. The AI is like just created a fairy tale out of the resume and it gets submitted. And so then, and then screening becomes really important. And so, in those screening processes, I do predict in the future, we're going to see more AI involvement. Are we going to get rid of the resume and the cover letter? I don't see any signs of that yet. Could happen. And then again, like I say, we've been predicting the end of the resume for decades, and it just hasn't happened yet because we haven't found something that works as well.
Could you see something, Andrea, where AI technology could make it easier? So rather than you screening a bunch of vanilla resumes, where you could actually have any candidates fill out more of a competency test for the job, so that you could send it out to 400 people, have them do a competency test, a short quiz or something to help you. Like, is there anything like that that's out there, or could AI help with something like that, or would that be beneficial?
Yeah, AI could help with that, and I think there are things out there like that. What typically happens is people send in their resumes, and then we sort through the resumes and decide who we want to send that sort of thing out to, and then they fill out that sort of thing, and so it's a level of screening.
And I'm assuming though, you limit the number of people you send it to, because generally you have to pay per test. But I'm just thinking again, could AI come up with something where the cost to send it to 400 people is cents rather than dollars, so you could find that maybe little nugget out of the 400 people that don't make your list of,
Maybe. The one thing I think about is the user experience. To send that's a lot of time on behalf of 400 people filling out this questionnaire. How involved in it, and are we respecting their time? Recognizing that, creating a resume and submitting an application is also pretty time consuming. So there is, the candidate experience that
Right.
I would be concerned about. But yeah, that's, it's feasible. Haven't really heard of anybody doing it en masse yet, but yeah, quite possible. And maybe something like that will become a solution to the resume problem.
I want to move on a little bit to another point here is more on performance management and employee engagement. And I think this topic, I've been seeing a little bit more news, and whether it's good news or bad news, on using AI to provide real-time feedback mechanisms. And obviously it depends on the job, right? I think
Yes.
we were working with a client who was asking us, it's like, hey, is there any way for AI to help track my employees are working? And this is sort of going into the over the shoulder, but it was like, I don't know if my employees are actually working or not. I see them on the computer and they say they're busy, but we're not sure. And so I don't know if this is an area where you think, sure, you'll always have like, whether you're moving your mouse or your computer's moving, but there's, you've seen all the people who have like the thing that moves your mouse every, like, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But like, in your opinion, how do you see AI impacting that performance management and I guess even the employee engagement aspect?
Well, it's really not performance management. It's performance monitoring that you're talking about. Frankly, I haven't dug into it because in my consultancy, what I'm trying to do is build healthy organizations. And if you have to monitor your employees 20, like every minute that they're working, I mean, that's really, in my mind, it's a garbage employee experience. It's a garbage. You got some work to do. You got some bigger, more important work to do around truly engaging your employees. How are you setting their work? Do you have to really monitor them minute by minute? So honestly, and I've never really delved into that, and it's something I would avoid. Those kinds of clients are ones that I would avoid. It's just not something I'm interested in doing because you need a culture, you need a work ethic, you need to solve different problems.
But on that, and that maybe this is our next episode, but I wonder about that because you've got a lot of business executives, business owners who get very worried about that. Are they doing their work? Are they working from home or are they slacking off? And I guess the question is, and like I said, this might be our next episode, but with an AI, you can monitor that. But as a human, you don't want a big brother looking over your shoulder, questioning everything you're doing every minute, because that does really kill a corporate culture. Like, who would ever want to work for something like that? Then again, from an owner standpoint, if they say, well, an AI doesn't care and a computer doesn't care if I monitor their progress. So it's an interesting topic, but I think that might be for the next one. But I was going to, like, what is the general sentiment in the HR space? Like, are you finding your colleagues are excited about the technology and kind of where it's going and what it's doing to the industry, or are they questioning it, or what's people's general consensus?
Like I said earlier, HR tends to be early adopters. So I think a lot of people in HR are wait and see, waiting for someone to deliver the solution onto their desk, and then they'll implement it. There certainly are people that are like raring to go. They want to dig in, and they totally are doing that. I didn't look up stats before this, but I would say the majority are just sort of sitting back, wait and see, incorporating it a little bit. I would think that consultants, which are the ones I mostly work with, even quite a number of them are, they're scratching the surface of what AI can do, but they're not using it, even at that basic level, not using it to its potential.
There's one, I guess, like maybe not so much in the performance management or monitoring aspect, but I think one thing that we've seen is employee onboarding and training, right?
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of opportunities in terms of even something simple as a digital assistant or a chatbot for new employees so they don't have to read through the manuals, or something about like, creating avatars to do the training instead of like the same boring videos. I think there's a lot of opportunities on that aspect. What have you seen?
Actually, along the chatbot lines, I actually created an employee handbook and fed it into a fake handbook, fed it into AI, and man, does it ever do a great job. It does a better job than humans do, if I'm totally honest. Because so often you'll get your employee and they'll go to their leader and they'll say, hey, what's the vacation policy? And the leader's like, oh my God, I can't remember. I think it's this. And then they waste a bunch of time looking it up. And then the employee gets wrong information, or they're not sure. They aren't inspired by the confidence of their leader's answer. So then they waste a bunch of time asking other people and going up to HR, where AI gives a short, direct answer to the question, none of this, extra information, this uncertainty. And so there's a ton of opportunity there, and a ton of opportunity around answering questions in the onboarding period. And then, training itself is almost a whole other ball of wax. It's another big thing, and there's lots of potential there too, especially for frontline jobs where tasks are more repetitive. So if you're thinking like customer service people, there's lots of potential there. If you're working in a shop, answering questions about how to do particular jobs in the shop, there's lots of potential there for training.
One of the other things you had here, Carl, and just wondering about that whole bringing AI into your operations. And again, have you seen it from an employee standpoint? Like, is it something that people are willing to embrace, or are people a little hesitant to? Because I think there's always that question of, will AI replace my job? And that's one of the things when we go into companies where we clearly state that we're not here to replace anybody's job. We're here to help you improve that efficiency 10 to 40%. But do you see much of that where some, employees are concerned with AI and kind of the unknown?
No, actually, what I do see now, and that could just be who my clients are, but I think a lot are chomping at the bit. And in some senses, AI or HR is holding them back because of ethical considerations, privacy considerations. Like I was talking about that employee who wanted to screen resumes with ChatGPT, and I'm like, nope, you're not doing that. So some in some instances really wishing their companies would adopt it faster, but it hardly would surprise me if there were a lot of employees out there concerned about the AI taking their jobs, especially those employees on the front lines, especially students coming out of school. Typically they learn to do, and you and I, we had these sort of grunt basic labor jobs, and we did, a lot of repetitive basic tasks, and I see a lot of that going away. And so what are the university students going to be doing when they come out of school? That question, if there is a question that keeps me up at night a little bit about this, that is a question that keeps me up a little bit.
And that's definitely a preview for our show on the AI and the future of the workforce, which you'll see in the link above. You touched on ethical considerations and data privacy. And I know that the tough one is, screening resumes, and you don't know it. You're not sure about bias. You're not sure about how transparent that is. So I don't know, can you speak a little bit more on what are some ethical considerations and privacy that companies would need to be aware of, whether they're using AI screening tools or just having that understanding of what that means in like an AI decision-making process, specifically related to future or current employees?
We have to be, for me, I think about it from two ways. Privacy, ensuring that all employee data and applicant data is kept private and not and guarded from being shared across the internet. But also the other way in which I am concerned about the use of AI is in perpetuating bias. So when AI trains on existing data, like let's say it's your employee data, well, your employee data is fundamentally biased. Because if you have, let's say, you're in an industry that's predominantly male and you want to, recruit more and you want your AI to learn from your workforce, well, it's predominantly male. And you've just eliminated so many of the non-male contenders who might have been great candidates, or maybe it's like, employees with white sounding names, and then you somehow that perpetuates bias. So we have to be very careful about, perpetuating bias. And it is in the interest of, DEI is a little bit falling out of favor, but it is in the interest of employers to eliminate bias as much as possible, because what do you want? You want talent, and talent doesn't have, there's no color to talent. There's, gender, talent is everywhere. And if you reduce your candidate pool to 30-40% of the population, you're missing out on so much talent. Those are some of the concerns. There's lots, like fairness, accuracy. We're making decisions based on AI, and we all know that AI makes up things sometimes, or it's just inaccurate. It says it's using a certain prompt to generate instructions, and then it's like, oh, where did my prompt go? I mean, I don't know what you're saying here, but there's a number of concerns. I think they're all surmountable, but there's a number of concerns, and it will vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, because some, the privacy legislation in the States is not the same as Canada, which is not the same as Europe. So just a few examples.
One other question, Andrea. Are you finding are you finding some of your clients are starting to look for people with AI experience or knowledge? Like, is that one of the criteria that people are starting to look for, or is that not really come into play yet?
Funny enough, it hasn't, and I'm surprised. That may be happening for bigger employers or particular positions, but I think employers really, they probably need a company like you to go in and help them develop their AI strategy, so they see where they need to be bringing in talent with AI skill. But if they, are sort of just piecemeal, we're going to do some AI here and we'll do some AI there, they're not going to be thinking about the talent strategy that they need to bring in, talent that has some AI skill, and how they're even going to apply that talent when it gets in the organization.
And I think that's one of the things that it takes time. And again, it's moving so quickly, but it's interesting because, I'm wondering that will be starting to pop up on a requirement. And I also think even from a post-secondary standpoint, like hopefully a lot of these post-secondaries are starting to incorporate it. You can see where there's some legislation in certain countries saying that AI now needs to be a part of your education from an elementary standpoint, but be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, I'm not an expert on post-secondary education by any stretch, but I can't imagine they're missing it.
So, Andrea, I know you run your own HR consultancy. Can you tell us a little bit more about the HR Hub and what you're doing?
I'm a senior HR consultant, and I do run my own. And so I consult mainly to small and medium businesses creating their HR strategy. I'm encouraging them to consider AI, but thus far they've been somewhat resistant, and AI with a HR lens on it. So just, AR solutions in the HR sphere, and then helping people and helping with crisis. Like, you've got an investigation you need to get done. You've got an employee issue you need to deal with. That's some of the things I do, but really I sort of cover the whole gamut of HR. And in addition to the HR consulting, I also have an HR YouTube channel, which is approaching 10,000 subscribers now. Pretty proud of that.
We'll share that link to that YouTube channel as well.
So a couple of questions for your business in terms of in relation to HR and AI. And how can your business ensure that AI tools enhance rather than hinder your diversity and how you hire? And then what steps can HR professionals in your organizations, what steps can they take to maintain a human touch in, I guess, an increasingly automated environment? Learn more about AI's effects on industries by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.